Well, hey, everyone. Happy Thursday night. I'm Tia Knapp, and this good looking guy next to me.
And I am Dr. Michael Gross. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for sharing your time with us tonight. And we have a phenomenal message. It's actually part two of what we were talking about last week. But before we get into that, Michael, I'm going to go ahead and give you a proper formal introduction. And this is the only thing we script, okay? Because I don't want to miss anything. It's very important. So I'm going to go in, and then Michael's going to talk to you about the message today. And we have a big surprise for you at the end, don't we, Michael? I just showed you what it was.
Yes, we do.
Okay, well, we're keeping that a little bit under the for a little bit longer, okay? So here we go. Dr. Michael Gross is an author, professional keynote speaker, transformational coach, and an entrepreneur. For more than 3 decades, he has been on a spiritual path as an intuitive, a healer, a spiritual counselor, and an incredible teacher. Through the guidance of spirit, Michael has assisted others in their personal quest for self empowerment, helping them to create the lives that they have long sought and to bring forth their intuitive abilities. Michael currently teaches classes in spirituality, self empowerment, Reiki, and other modalities. In concert with God, the True Source, he also achieved great success and miraculous healings. Ooh, my mouth is tight, going funny, huh? Okay, great success and miraculous healings, but he remains humble, knowing that the work that he does all comes from God, the true source. He lives in Lakewood, Washington, and has just launched his incredible nonprofit. Michael, why don't you tell the folks a little bit about that?
It's called TISI, the International Institute of Self Empowerment, 501c3. And as you know, we talked about before, it has 12 arms, so to speak. And the first one would be working with abused women, children, and men. And I was inspired to start that first by the work I did with Tia Knapp. And I'm honored that I chose her to be director of that division. So thank you to you. More to come.
Thank
And
you, Michael.
want to remind everyone we're a 501c3. Therefore, if you're looking for some tax deductions, you'll get a beautiful letter, and we would appreciate it so we can launch this into a great depth and help so many abused people. So thank you. Well, we
Thank
got
you
some
so
exciting things today.
Thank you, Michael, for honoring me by asking me to be part of your 501c3. Okay, Tizzy is a beautiful gift in our life. And on that note, Michael, I'm going to go ahead and give you this floor because our topic today is your life experiences, part two.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Last week we talked about, or I talked about your life experiences, and I want to talk a little bit more about your life experiences, part two. And your life experiences have several effects on you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And I want to address one part of it, and that would be physically. And we have to take a look at our lives and realize we're looking for an area where we can be joyous and happy and feel comfortable. And then after a while, some of us, not all of us, have a habit of when we're under stress, we eat or we don't eat. Those that don't eat, they get under stress and they take off some weight and probably could have diabetes, high blood pressure, etc. Then those of us who uh, cave under pressure and then we eat what you see comfort foods, we have high blood pressure, heart disease, ulcers, whatever, arthritis. Interesting. So the parallel is the same, is the effects are the same, is but how we get there is different. And how we get there is we're always comparing the past with the present. You've heard me say that before. So whenever something comes up, we reflect back something in our life. Maybe when you are 5 years old, maybe you're 50 now. And you remember something at five or age two, or maybe something 18 or 20, or even yesterday, whatever it is. Those thoughts, those energies determine your body. Now, as I've previously pointed out, that your body has an intelligence. And this intelligence actually is what will keep your body healthy or not healthy or do certain things to it that you'll be unhappy about. And when I say certain things, if you don't like the path you're walking and you're feeling sorry or angry or upset, You could break a leg. You can have arthritis. You can have joint disease. You may need a hip replacement, knee replacement, or whatever. And most people say, well, it's from the athletics and the things I've done, and I abuse my body. And part of that is true. But the other part of it is how you feel about your body. And think about certain words that come up in our life, right? So, diet, all right? I use that one. DIE, I'm going to diet. Break it up, die, it. So, what you're talking about is you diet, which you mean to take off weight, but your body's going to be dying. Now, you don't realize this, but it's very, very subliminal, something for us to understand. All right. Fearful. I have a lot of fear and I'm full of fear. Understand those words. And then there's so many other words that we can take a look at. And we look at diabetes, right? DIA, something like DI, diet, food, beaties, that you're beating up your body and it's having some kind of an effect. So every word has a vibration frequency and will attract into your life whatever you're thinking. And previously I said every organ within your body has an intelligence. I use the term a mini brain. And why do I say that? Because it operates on its own, but at the same time, it reflects your emotions and feelings and thoughts. It is so important. And if we look at our bodies, arthritis, right is thy right. What direction are thy walking in? Where are we going? So you stretch out the words, you add a little meaning to it. But you see, you may not consciously think that way, but subconsciously, your subconscious mind, your brain breaks up words into energies and vibrations. So if you said horse manure, well, that's kind of a low vibration. But he said happiness is a high vibration. And then again, how you use horse manure. If you're a pharmacist, I love horse manure. Yes, because it makes the crops grow. But normally we use that as a negative thought. So here our bodies are responding to your thoughts, your feelings, and emotions. And therefore, we have to be very careful of the words we choose because our thoughts are constantly creating our body 24/7, even when you're sleeping. And as I had mentioned before, when you go to sleep, the last thought you have in your mind, excuse me, you're reviewing 60 to 90 times. And for our new listeners, I just thought I'd share this with you. Sometime in the 50s in England, they did a test with hypnotherapists. And what they did with the prisoners who agreed to do this was they put a subconscious thought, they hooked them up to electroencephalogram, which are wires. The brain has electricity in it. And so it would read the brain waves, the electrical current from the brain waves. There was no electricity per se, very minor, and would go onto a graph that was spinning or and maybe flat, and you could see the up and down of the brain waves. And so when they repeated a thought in the subconscious mind, it would form a certain brain wave which was identifiable. Well, they hypnotized them, they said go to sleep, and then the next morning they looked at the brain waves. The last thought they had was repeated 60 to 90 times. Well, if we understand it's been repeated 60 to 90 times, what's your body going to do? What are your heart's going to do? What are your emotions going to do? 94% of our thinking comes from the subconscious mind. Not only does it come from the subconscious mind, we are always comparing the past with the present. Always, 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 always. Therefore, just remember, what are you thinking and what are you feeling? And your body's going to respond to it. So the important thing for us to realize the body is going to respond to it is we subconsciously aren't aware of this. But what we have to do is change our thoughts. And that's what's so important. Therefore, as I said before, and I want to reiterate, when you have a negative thought, you must say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cancel, 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 and replace it with a new positive thought. So what happened is it separates the thought from left brain, right brain, goes to the amygdala, and then you put a new thought in. Well, the universal law goes there's no such thing as a vacuum in the universe. Whatever you think is going to manifest in your life. On going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you stop it unless you replace it with something. So if a person says they're stupid, they go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cancel. I love the sun, I'm bright. I love a hot fudge sundae. Anything positive, it will turn around and block that thought from being created in your life. Remember, the thought is electrical, it goes out. Well, like attracts like. So if you're manifesting something positive through your thoughts, it'll happen to you. If you're manifesting something negative, it will happen to you. Every thought is a manifestation. You can argue till the cows come home, as they say. You lose because every thought is created your life. But here is a beautiful part, and that is you have the opportunity to change your body, your thoughts, your emotions, and bring joy and happiness into your life. That is what's so important. We're reaching a precipice on this wonderful planet. Mother Earth, she's beautiful, where the mass consciousness is now going into fear and doubt and insecurity. Now, I'm not saying everybody on the billions of people on the planet, but enough so they will control it. Control it means they will bring out this fearful energy. Have you had trouble sleeping at night? Have you felt anxiety? You wake up in the morning, you're unhappy, or you're around people and don't want to be around people. You want to become reclusive, or you want to run and hide, or somebody comes up to you and you go, oh, they're going to complain. Same story. And, sometimes we need to vent. That's healthy. But when you hear it 1,700 times from the same person, and I'm exaggerating here, it's time to walk away and send them love because they don't want to let go of it. They think it's a badge of courage or whatever. Most importantly, it is not a badge of courage. They're stuck and they're really looking for help, but they don't want to hear what you say. How many times have you had a conversation? And like I was talking to one of my clients and she was talking to her son. She said, I didn't feel good. I was in the hospital. And her son goes, well, I was in the hospital too. And I was. And she was really ticked off. And I don't blame her. And I said to her, you're looking for a little sympathy. And she said, yeah. She said, but my son had to outdo me. All I wanted was just a little bit of sympathy. And how you doing, Mom? I'm glad you're healthy. That's all I wanted to hear. But the problem is 95% of the time, you're going to be disappointed because someone's going to try to outdo you. Those of us who have become more enlightened will show compassion. And maybe your friends are more enlightened if you hear that compassion. But for the majority, you're not going to hear it. Most important thing when I was growing up, my mother said, Michael, nobody wants to hear your problems. They just want to hear good things. And I learned this at the age of 14. And I realized, and I looked around all my life, I don't want to hear your problems. Even if you say you want to hear your problems, remember, anywhere from 30 to 50% of the time, we're thinking of an answer. So we're only getting half the conversation. How do you handle this? What do you do? And this is what's interesting. Steve Jobs, I saw him talking just before he birthed out of his body. And he's a billionaire. Apple has more cash than the US government. Not incredible? More cash. Billions. And the one thing he talked about was that money can't buy health. And what he did, he drove himself and he worked hard. Many people don't know it, but he formed the company with two other people and as chairman of the board. And then Apple began to grow in competition with Microsoft and their computers and IBM. And the board of directors fired him. He still owned all the stock, but they fired him. And so he was knocked off because they thought they could do a better job. Well, Apple went on nosedive, and they had to bring him back in, and he turned it around. Interesting. But he was so committed to making Apple successful that he forgot about his own life, his own health. And there's a way that we in our lives have to find balance. And right now, I look around at people. How are you finding balance? Oh, I go out and party. I do, I vape. Maybe I do marijuana, or maybe I do this, or I do that, or I do this. Band-aid, 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 band-aid. Because when it's all over and you wake up in the morning, still there, still facing its ugly head and face at you, how do you get around that? Well, first of all, you have to decide what owns and controls your life. What fear, what doubt, what insecurity? What is it? And jot it down. Those who are listening to me, jot it down now or play it again or make a little note. What truly owns you? Your fears, your doubts, and insecurities. And is it really true? Is the next question. Is it really true? Or are these things just made up? That's another thing for you to think about. Is it really true? Are you making it up? And how much does it own of your strength, your energy, and your time? I want you to think about these things, but I know Tio has something she would like to talk about.
Thank you for the moment. I appreciate it. You know, working with you, I realized that I was a prisoner in my own fear, and the door was wide open, but I wasn't aware of that, and I ended up being stuck in that fear for years and years and years until Michael helped me recognize that a lot of those fears were learned behavior. It was stuff that I didn't even realize on a subconscious level was going on. And Michael, I'm wondering if you would take a couple minutes to share with everybody else the power of our subconscious mind and the things that we've been ingrained into us from the time we were even before we were even born.
I would love to. So, a lot of our behavior patterns come into utero when you're the fetus in your mother's womb. And then when you grow up from your family, friends, relatives, even churches, religious people, and schools and educations. And the most important thing is I thought I'd tell a little bit of a story, that's really interesting of some of my clients. One of my clients had low self-worth, self-esteem. And so I worked with her and I regressed her, and she automatically went back when she was a fetus into utero. And she remembered her mother saying, I wish I never had this baby. Now she's 47 years old, and she goes to her mother. Did you ever say that? And the mother said, how'd you know? I never told anybody. That affected her mentally. Now, as a fetus, she go, well, she can't speak. Yes, but she has a brain and she can reason. More than that, you pick up anybody's energy, the emotion of that energy, positive, negative, neutral, or whatever it is. You pick it up and you attach to that energy a thought that comes into your mind. In this case, the fetus knew what the mother was saying. You know how they said play classical music while you're pregnant and your child will be relaxed? And there's a lot of truth to that. Another, case in history had a client that was 50 years old, weighed about 350 pounds, and she couldn't take off weight. And I sat down. I said, okay, let's take a look. And in doing some work again, she said, I want to be like my aunt, my aunt. My mom was working all the time, so my aunt took me to birthday parties, did all these things. She's wonderful. I just want to be like her. I said, well, how do you describe your aunt? Oh, she gave me presents. She took me out to dinner. We had a lot of fun, went to the circus. Oh, okay. And she was kind and loving. What did she look like? Well, she had blonde hair and brown eyes and weighed 350 pounds. And I looked at her and said, you're manifesting just like your aunt. Now, your aunt's a wonderful, beautiful lady, but she's packing on some extra weight. What are you doing? And she looked at me, said, oh my goodness. And then she began to remove or take off weight. Those are some of the stories, but there are more stories, more than ever. And there are families that when you're growing up, grandmas or grandfathers that said things. The last example, which I mentioned before, I was working with a client 4 generations ago. A Catholic married upon a Protestant, and a curse was put on by the bride that she'll always be poor. So he's telling me 4 generations later, we have a curse, we'll be poor. And I said, well, let's talk about this. 3 months later, we're working with him, and he released it, got a new job. 6 months later, bought a car. A year later, bought a house and no longer was poor. But you see how the thoughts in and around and about us feel this way and put fear into us. You know, the classic story about a woman who used, I think, was a pot roast. And so she made a pot roast and she would cut off the end of the pot roast and make the pot roast. And it was the mother's recipe. So the husband said, well, it's delicious. Why do you always cut off the end of the pot roast? He said, I don't know, my mother did it. Must make it taste better or something. So she asked her mother, and she said, oh, the reason I cut the end off because it couldn't fit in the pot. So here she's emulating her mother, thinking it's going to be healthier and better. Didn't know why, but she was following it. So we get into these habits and we kind of chuckle. But you know, when my mother used to bake, well, how much of this? Oh, you put a little this, a little that, little always came out right. And of course, my wife had drove her crazy because she wanted to make some of my favorite dishes, you know. And what do you mean a little this and a little that? But I realized that many of the old timers cook that way, but they were very intuitive. And sometimes the dish never tasted the same way as before, but it was always delicious. And that's the point. No matter what you're doing in life, as you change your life, as you change your thoughts and your energy, your feelings and emotions, you'll always come out right. It'll always be perfect. And so I want to share, I'm taking a look at the time. Yeah, we got some more time. The definition of perfection. So we used to have a 40-acre farm. We had this 100-year-old rose bush, or that's what my wife said. And one day in my enthusiasm, I mowed it down. Boy, was I in hot water. I learned a new language. And so I talked to the elves, gnomes, and fairies of rose bushes and so on, and it grew back. No exaggeration. I'm going to say maybe it was 4 feet high last year that I mowed it down, maybe 4.5 feet, but I know it was much higher. And I went, wow, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm out of hot water. And so the true source said, came to me and said, look at the rose bush. I said, yeah, it's beautiful. Are the roses more bright red than last year? Well, I said, I think so, but I'm not sure. We'll go outside and smell the fragrance. I could smell it 10 feet away, the roses. Before I know I had to be 2 feet away. I said, wow, it's more fragrant than ever before. They're beautiful. And True Source said, that's the definition of perfection. And I said, what do you mean? Perfection means ever growing more perfect. You're never perfect because you grow more perfect. And that rose bush, after it was mowed down, said, I'm going to grow back. I'm going to be more beautiful than ever. And it was. And if you don't think, plants have an intelligence, walk by some time where someone forgot to water a plant. You pick up the thought, these plants need water. Well, how do you know that? They're talking to you, and they're talking to you and sending you a message, as preposterous as this may seem. Or you have a feeling your dog or cat needs to go out or their bowl changed or whatever. They're talking to you. So you're getting messages 24/7. Sometimes you blow it off. Well, it's my imagination. It's this or that. Listen to those messages. And the most important message you're getting every day is your body. Your body's telling you what to eat, what you need to do, what you should do, and how you bring about joy and happiness. One thing, I remember with my children, those days they were feeding them, food from glass jars, and there was Heinz and I don't know, a whole bunch of others. And so one day I was watching my daughter, who was like 2 years old, 1.5. She had carrots and she had chicken and little peas. Next day, of course, there's leftovers. She refused to eat the chicken, carrots, and peas. Refused to. My wife get frustrated, so I tried something else: green beans, potatoes, and it was like hamburger or meat. And what I learned from that is her body, a child's body, is telling you what it needs, not what it thinks it should have, but what it needs. And if you were to eat that way, including me, our bodies would be a lot different and we would be a lot healthier because you would know what to eat. And you would know, if possible, get natural foods as much as you can. So these are some of the thoughts I want to share with you because I see we're running out of time. And I want to thank you. But to you, I know you want to say some more. But before I do, I want to tell each one of you, please share this wonderful Facebook Live. It's on YouTube. We'll describe how to find it later. But more importantly, the more of you are here because you are the solution and you can make a difference. So this wonderful, wonderful program, as we call it, is being brought to you by Healing the Holes in Your Soul. Tia Knapp, a wonderful book about survival and rising from the ashes for joy and happiness and bringing about a wonderful change in our life and supporting women who have been abused and children and men.
Thank you, Michael. And here's the special surprise that I have for all of you. Michael's second edition of the Spiritual Primer has now come out.
Yay!
So yeah, it took him a lot of work, a lot of little hurdles, well, a lot of big hurdles to go over, but it's here. So if you're interested in getting your hands on a copy, especially if you would like to have a signed copy direct from Dr. Michael Gross, all the contact information is in the comments on Facebook, or you can just contact one of us, okay? It's a beautiful book. It's got, you can tell it's the second edition because the inside is a tiny bit darker. And you'll see, oops, there we go. You see a picture on the back, but on this one, it's also got a section included. Michael, why don't you take just a minute or two to let them know about what else is in the back of this book?
Yes, well, it's primarily what I printed in my first book. However, it has the addition of the 12 manifestation protocols. So it's a brief outline for you to those who took the course or will be interested to take the course or just interested how you manifest things in your life. It helps you to remind you or how to do it. It's really, really, to me, very key because remember, every thought is a manifestation. So thank you to you for showing that.
And here, this is part of the new part that's been added. It's called the 12 Manifestation Protocols, your personal path to creating the life of your dreams. So definitely, definitely connect with us so that you can get one of the copies. I'm not giving up mine.
Okay. All right.
This is gold. This is gold. And if it wasn't for the Spiritual Primer and the second edition and this wonderful gentleman over here, I wouldn't have written that book. He's the one that encouraged me to write my book, and I'm so blessed that he did because now where we're going is into the beautiful nonprofit that he's also created. So on that note, Michael, why don't you tell everybody what you do Tuesday night and Thursday we already know we're here, but keep on, just tell everybody else a little bit about your Tuesday night and what happens second Saturday of the month, okay?
All right. So everyone, first of all, I want you to know that this Facebook Live goes on YouTube. Also, on Tuesday night, I'll leave a motivational message. I'll go into that in a moment. And they're 10 to 15 minutes long. And you can go to Dr. Michael B. Gross and see those or hear those yeah. Oh boy, my tongue tied. Motivational.
You got what I got.
Yeah, motivational thoughts. And it's accompanied by a beautiful photography of Tia Knapp with a little saying on it. So if you're stuck in your car and everything, we'll tell you how to listen to the replays. But every Tuesday night, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time to 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, I call the call-in. So it's the call-in, and what you do is ask any kind of question in spirituality. Hopefully I can answer it. And then I leave you words of wisdom, which is a 10 to 15 minute motivational message. It's really key and really, really important. In order to access that for now, I'm using freeconferencecall.com. And that telephone number is
202-926-1059. And the access code, Michael?
125446 pound. Again.
I'll do it again. It's 202-926-1059. And the access code?
125446 pound. And I'm using the same number, the same codes, the second Saturday of every month. I do what we call a mass consciousness healing. And exactly what I do is it starts at 9:55 a.m. Pacific time to 11:01 Pacific time. And I talk for 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 4, and then we go into silence. And sometime around 10:57, 10:58, come back on. I leave a few thoughts, and 11:01 we're done. So if you join us and we're a little late, or you're a little late, I should say, and you hear silence, it's because we're meditating. And it's the same access code as the call in. We'll just give that number one more time.
Okay, the number for the call-in and for the Mass Consciousness Healing on the second Saturday is 202-926-1059, and the
The
access code
is 125-446-pound. And then we have what I call the replay. And those are the 10 to 15 minute messages. I don't know, 280 or 90, somewhere around there. And it starts with number 3. And what you can do is you're driving the car, you're tired, you're exhausted, you want a little uplift. Just choose any number between 3 and 280 or 5 or 89. And don't worry about the number, because I get people saying, I chose number 76. I don't know why. Just what I needed to hear. So let your soul and your intuition tell you. And that telephone number is?
That one is 434-300-4170, and the access code
is 125-446-pound. Same number. One more time, please.
I'll give it one more time. It's 434-300-4170, and the access code, Michael?
125-446-pound. Thank you, everyone. Go ahead.
Okay. I have one thing I really, really, really encourage all of you to do. Michael, you've got some beautiful comments here in the chat, okay? People are appreciating and loving on you, and I'm so glad they're here. But I also want to encourage everybody to go to Dr. Michael B. Gross on YouTube, because everything that Michael's talking about, a lot of the recordings that we've been doing for, I believe, a little over 2 years are in there. And also a lot of his recorded calls that are, 10 to 15 minutes long are also being put into his YouTube page. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button. And that's like the best way for you to go in. It's all like everything is right there in YouTube. All the Facebook videos that we've been doing. So definitely subscribe to his page, because he has a phenomenal YouTube channel going. And if you want to learn more about the doctor, well, the doctor is in there 24/7, and he will definitely help you.
Thank you, everyone. I wish you a wonderful week. Please spread the word. And remember, you are unlimited. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Good night. See you next week.
See you next week.